He was at Packers training camp today shooting video and tweeting stuff out. So we'll talk to Jacob Westendorf and get his thoughts on what he saw at Packers training camp. Before we get to all of that, because I wasn't there. Obviously, I just told you, we've been here all day doing the different radio shows. So I do the same thing as you do, right? I go to Andy Herman, or Ryan Wood, or Matt Schneidman, or whoever the case may be, and go down kind of what their play-by-play is and what's happening in practices. And then Charlie and I, throughout training camp and the regular season, will kind of react to whatever we're seeing on Twitter and so forth. No different. Now, Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst both talked earlier today. Matt LaFleur talked second after Brian Gutekunst. This is a little bit of what Packers head coach Matt LaFleur had to say earlier.
Goody was in here talking about how he thinks you guys have a championship caliber football team, but you can't skip the steps to getting there. What is your message at the start of this season to a group that has had some success as a young team, but I'm sure wants to take that next step?
Yeah, I think we're capable of doing some really good things, but we got to be willing to do the work, and that was pretty much the message to the team. Are you willing to do all the little things that it takes? Because it takes a lot to get even to that point to reach the postseason. It takes a lot to. We got a really tough division. We got a really tough schedule, and that's the National Football League. So, but you got to do all the little things. And then, you always got to have a little luck on your side in terms of staying healthy throughout the course of the season.
Matt, along those lines, at the end of the camp, I asked you what kind of team you thought you had. You said, I don't want to put too much out there. You got a ton of guys that have shown lots of glimpses of how good they really are, but they haven't done it consistently. Is that realistic to think that all those guys that are in that kind of group can all make that jump and do it game to game, week to week?
Well, I think that's the expectation, and we always talk about just daily improvement, and we're going to challenge and push these guys to be at their best on a consistent basis. Each day, you're either getting better, you're getting worse, you're never staying the same. So you got to be deliberate about what you do. You got to be super intentional, super mindful, and then you have to put in the work. There's no substitute for that.
Matt, you mentioned the tough schedule, the tough division. You've obviously got Detroit week 1. Any difference in ramping up during preseason to kind of get ready for that game?
No, we'll stick with our process that we map out, and certainly I think one of the things that we've done a decent job is trying to be fluid throughout, and you got to have a kind of the pulse of the team in terms of how you adjust throughout the course of camp. But we've got a lot of good people in our building that can help guide us to whatever the best answer is.
I know Elton's been here. Go ahead.
If you had no restrictions, would you practice more in camp than you're scheduled to?
What do you mean?
That's a good one.
CBA restrictions?
No, I feel pretty confident with what we do.
Get out of here.
So
come on.
Might have more time in the building, more meetings, more walkthroughs, but no, I don't know. There are, so you just make the best of it.
I know Elton's been here a while.
Hold on a second. We're going to pause this. I got to talk about this. First of all, I don't believe you. Let's start. I don't believe you. I think every NFL head coach, assistant coach, or other type of coach would tell you they would absolutely take a couple more practices if they could get them during an NFL training camp, during the NFL preseason. I guarantee you they would take it. What coach wouldn't want more practice time? And to me, it doesn't even matter what sport you're in. You could be in basketball, you could be in hockey, baseball, soccer, lacrosse, volleyball, whatever. No coach is ever happy with the amount of practice time they have. If it was up to every coach, they'd practice longer and more to try and get their team even sharper and better, if at all possible. Now, if it was up to players, which obviously it is, that's why the CBA is set up the way it is, you wouldn't have nearly as many practices. You just go back to, like, say, the 80s or 90s, how many padded practices they were running there versus what they're allowed to run now? It's not even night. It's not even close. It's night and day. You talk to some of these dudes that practiced back then, they call this like country club training camp versus what they had to go through. And then you will have these conversations. Man, why is tackling so bad in the league, Sparky? Why can't anybody tackle? It's horrible. You're in pads. You're never practicing the tackling. Now, you don't have to practice tackling in pads. You could practice it in other ways against air and so forth. But the fundamentals and stuff like that, whenever I hear people complaining about that, it's just like, well, you've completely gone away from all of that stuff, and for good reason. I get it, right? Concussions. A bunch more concussions could happen if you have all these added practices in training camp. More injuries could happen. Your own guys hitting your own guys, right? I get all that. I understand why. But when you ask Matt LaFleur is like, I don't know. Maybe more time in the building, but I don't think I'd want more practice. I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe these younger cats don't think they need more practice time, but that'd be a new one on me, because every coach I've ever talked to always talks about, man, I wish we could practice way more than we do, but we're not allowed to. And it could be high school coaches, could be whatever. By the way, high school football. You heard about this? It's the damn Wild Wild West. There is no limit on these practices in the summertime. Before, you only got so many days with the kids. Yep. Apparently now it's wide open. You could practice them all summer.
Yeah, it's kind of insane.
You heard about that?
I did.
I did not until this week, and somebody told me that. I was like, what?
Even when I was playing, when we still had those limits, it felt like a lot. You were still practicing a lot. It's hot here, man. I don't think people understand that sometimes. It's really easy for kids to get sick in this type of heat, and you're going to make a lot of kids get sick that way.
They should be practicing at night. I've always said that. Every stadium around here, not every, but most have lights on the high school football fields. They should be running practices like 7 to 9. Those should be the practice times, 7 to 9 at night, or you come in, you lift, do everything from like 5:30 to 6:30, go out, stretch, and then you start the pads or whatever at 7 o'clock.
I think that recently being that age, during the day, if I was given all day to do whatever I want and then have to go to practice, my practice at night would not be as good as my practice in the morning, because I would have eaten junk, or I would have gone and ran around with my friends, or went swimming, gotten tired.
But you would have changed your habits, because you would have known the first time it happened, you'd have been like, well, I can't do that anymore during the day.
Have.
Really?
No, and I don't think a lot of kids would have. I mean, you're still a kid and you want to enjoy your summer. I think I'd be more frustrated with the coaches for making us go practice at night after I've done all of that. I feel like a lot of younger people would blame the coaches in that situation, because, well, they kind of are taking away some of your summer if you have to change your whole schedule like that.
I guess. I didn't realize that was the deal. I could not believe when I heard that. All right, moving on. More Matt LaFleur.
He's played some center for you. But how important is it for him to get out there at some point sooner than later to start building that chemistry there?
Yeah, I think the rapport when you talk about your offensive line is critical, especially when you talk about the center position. I think a lot of times it can be often overlooked in regards to all the nuances that position entails. I mean, you are the guy making all the calls. Obviously, you touch the ball on every play. You're the only other guy other than quarterback that touches that ball on every play, and there's nothing more important than that. So just the ability for really the entire offense to get off on the snap count, it really a lot of that rests upon the shoulders of the center.
Seems like in the NFL you leave no stone unturned with analytics, this, that, the other. The new locker room that's unveiled, do things like that matter to a team and the success they have and the feeling they have coming into the building?
I think it's nice, but like I told our guys, it gives us 0 wins. I mean, you've got to go out and nothing's changing with that football field. You got to go do it out there. So although it is a great luxury, I just want our guys to understand. I told them yesterday, I'm like, hey, we got all these sexy facilities, but understand there's nothing sexy about the process. I mean, it takes a lot of hard work, dedication, sacrifice, pain to get to where you want to go, and hopefully at the end of it, there's a payoff.
I know it's early in the process, but how has Jordan Morgan this offseason readjusted back to left tackle, and what do you hope to see from him?
Yeah, he's done a nice job. His body looks different. So it'll be interesting to let it naturally and organically kind of play itself out throughout the course of camp. But he's going to be, he's going to have to cross-train at guard and tackle, and we'll see where it all lands.
With Bo Melton spending most of his time with the corners during training camp, just what are you hoping to see from him over these next 4
Well, I just think that we know what he is as a wide receiver, and I think it just gives him the best opportunity moving forward in regards to if he can really kind of carve out a role in that spot.
Stop the presses. I'll take my apology now, Charlie Using. I'll take my apology now.
I already knew this was coming. I knew this was coming the moment I saw it.
Now, go ahead.
I saw Andy Herman of the Pack-A-Day Radio Show tweet out that on the roster they changed Bo Melton to cornerback. Yeah. I'm sorry, Sparky. Whatever. Blah 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 blah. Yeah.
It's like dealing with my kid whenever I'm writing on something. I get the same response from the kids at home when I'm writing on something. Yeah, whatever, Dad. Whatever. Yeah, fine. You were right. Yeah.
It doesn't count when you're right.
It's all right, though.
You're supposed to be right. You're the older one. It doesn't count. We're not supposed to say sorry.
Hey, I gotta put up with all this nonsense about how I'm a crazy old guy. So I'm gonna drop it when I can.
Fair enough.
I got right on something. Listen, this isn't that hard to figure out. They're telling him, LaFleur said it. I know what Bo Melton is, right? You know that Bo Melton isn't good enough to play wide receiver only and make this football team. So you gave him 16. I think there's 2 dudes with 16. You gave him 16 to go out there and learn how to play cornerback. Now, Kenny, remember, his brother got drafted as a corner. So it's not like athletically he can't play corner. He can definitely play corner. But you're not giving him a lot of ramp-up time here to get ready to go out there and compete for that cornerback position. I think they love him on special teams. That's why they're trying to figure out if he can play a different position, right? That's what this all comes down to. But his roster spot's up in the air. Like I don't think there's any debate on that. He says, I know what he is at wide receiver. Right. That's why you got him at cornerback now. And I think he understands that as well. If he gets cut, does he get picked up by somebody else to play wide receiver? I don't know. Is he a good enough special teams player to burn a roster spot on him just to be a special teams player? Because that's the other thing. In today's league, do you want to waste spots on just special teams only guys? And if the answer to that is yes, which I think some teams it is, how many of those roster spots, Charlie, are you going to waste on special teams only guys?
That's a pretty hard question to ask because sometimes those special teams guys, I think especially in the case of the Packers, tend to be younger players that you're hoping can also find a role somewhere else on this team. And I think the way the Packers operate is that a lot of those guys become pretty beneficial later on in the season, especially as injuries start to happen. I mean, keying on a guy like Zane Anderson last season, where he went through that whole process and ended up being a strong part of that secondary. Yep. And I think moving forward, the Packers shouldn't go away from that philosophy because it's worked. So I think you probably keep more than the average team does, but still probably only 5 to 6 guys, maybe that 4 to 5 guys that are special teams only, I would say.
So what do you do with Melton? Is he a boundary corner or do you think he's a slot corner? He's a thicker dude. Like, he's not, I wouldn't call him wiry by any stretch of the imagination.
I think he's a special teams guy that halfway through the season, you decide if you need more help at wide receiver or cornerback, and you figure out where to put him there. I think that's kind of what it comes down to. I don't really know if it's about specifically which corner he's playing. It's more so you let him be that cornerback on the field goal like they were talking about, and then find out where he fits in when you need him to fit in somewhere.
Brian Gutekunst, who talked earlier, who may have a chance to play some of, when he was talking about that left tackle spot with Rasheed Walker, he pretty much said Rasheed Walker's a starter. Like, pretty much, he's got to lose the job because he's going in as the incumbent. This isn't an open competition necessarily. It's his job. And we go back to Pete Doherty yesterday when he said he thinks there's a good chance that Jordan Morgan, your first-round pick, is not going to be starting this year for the Green Bay Packers, that he's going to be a swing guy. Can I take that to the defense? Because Javon Bullard, also a high draft pick, what was he, second round, I think, out of Georgia? Depending on what happens here with Bo Melton, and depending on how they want to play Hobbs, and we'll get into what they did at training camp today coming up in the next segment, as far as where they played Hobbs, there's a chance that Bullard may find himself out of this rotation as well, Charlie. I mean, those are 2 high picks that may not be key players necessarily at the end of the day for the Packers. Morgan looks like that's, I'm not going to say it's a certainty because you never know with injuries. He could get a spot, somebody gets hurt in preseason or training camp. But that looks like a certainty as far as he ain't beating those guys out. I don't know about Hobbs and Melton beating out Bullard for that slot position, but you don't pay all that money for Hobbs to not play him somewhere on a regular basis. And he ain't taking Valentine's job, and he ain't taking Nixon's job.
I think when you look at a guy like Jordan Morgan, it's a little frustrating in my eyes. We heard Mike Spofford on the Pack-A-Day radio show earlier today with Andy Herman, and he was saying if Jordan Morgan ends up being that sixth offensive lineman for this team, and he's a former first-round pick, you're in a really good spot. That means your offensive line's really good. And I was kind of rolling my eyes behind the camera.
That's what I would have been doing.
And I was kind of saying, you know what? If you felt like you had a good enough offensive line where you feel like this guy was a sixth offensive lineman from the get-go, then why did you draft him with your first-round pick when you had other options on the board? Didn't really make very much sense. And if we're 2 years into his career and he never gets out of that bottom backup territory, then what was the point of drafting him? And kind of going with Bullard, I think that I have a little more confidence in him just because I don't have as much confidence in that cornerback room. I think there's a lot more changes that could happen with that versus on the offensive line.
That guy was drafted as a safety with the intention of moving him to corner because they thought Evan Williams could be that safety, I think. So even though he played safety, I'm convinced, because they took three safeties, remember? And then Oladipo, that cat, do you know what they're doing with him?
What's that?
Same thing they're doing with Bullard. They're trying to play him in the slot too.
Which makes sense. He was a little bit of a strange one that playing in the slot doesn't really make sense to me. He feels like they're going to use him like when they use Keyshawn Nixon more on the interior where they blitz him a lot because Oladipo is just a little bit of a bigger guy. But Bullard, I think, truly can be a cornerback. I think, yes, last season we saw moments where he struggled when they put him into that position. But I think as he keeps growing and as the cornerback room keeps looking as kind of shaky as it does, that leaves more room for him to sneak in. The offensive line doesn't look shaky, and that's a lot harder for Jordan Morgan to sneak in on.
Update on the Brewers game. Tyler Black with a double to move over.
Let's go, baby.
To move over Isaac Collins, who was at first base. Hit it into right field. It was a hustle double.
Tyler Shoeless Joe Jackson Black?
Yeah, Tyler Black. So second and third, nobody out.
He was hustling.
Yeah, he was. Well, he can run a little bit. That first inning for the Brewers, two of the three guys that got out struck out. Contreras struck out and Churchill struck out. Yelich had a hit, but the other two guys struck out. So let's see if the Brewers can get something going here. For Quinn Priester, 0-0 still, top of the second. Take a quick timeout, come back. Other side, we'll go over what happened at training camp practice earlier today. If you do not know yet, stay tuned for that because I got some thoughts on how people are playing and so forth. We'll do that. Well, hold on a second here. Let's just wait a second before because we're gonna have a scoring update here on this Brewers game. So we'll just let this play out. Okay, there we go. Blake Perkins. 2-run RBI double off the wall off Luis Castillo. I'm telling you, man. You just had Collins, Black, and Perkins account for 2 runs in back-to-back-to-back hits, Charlie. I mean, you can say whatever you want about Magic or whatever else is going on, but, I mean, those 3 guys against Luis Castillo throwing up there and doing that?
Well, Castillo also threw a 4-seam fastball 95 miles per hour down the middle, man. I would hope an MLB player takes that.
I'm just saying, he's a damn good pitcher, right? So, and you're not doing this with the meat of your order. Remember, I mean, Castillo's only seen Contreras and Yelich. That's it. He hasn't seen anybody else in this lineup in his career. So this is the first time going around for the Brewers to be jumping on him early like this. It's a good sign for the Brewers maybe winning this game here this afternoon. All right, coming up on the other side, we'll talk more about the Green Bay Packers and what's going on with them. Take a quick time out. It is... Man, I got to quit watching TV. I'm never going to get to break. So Wisconsin Sports Daily served up by Wendy's, broadcasting live from the 1250 AM 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Speaking of that Potawatomi Sportsbook, 6,500 square feet, 2,000 square foot center screen, exactly where you want to be to watch a daytime baseball game, to watch a nighttime baseball game, to watch bowling, to watch racing, golf, basketball, football, you name it. They got on over 30 sporting events at one time. Amazing food at the Potawatomi Sportsbook Kitchen. All day brunch, desserts made fresh each and every day, pastries and desserts right there at the Potawatomi Casino Hotel made on premise. 48 beers on tap, a dozen different specialty cocktails. Reserve your seat today, Potawatomi.com/sportsbook. Again, it's Potawatomi.com/sportsbook.
Some shows talk about one team. Other shows barely talk sports. This show will talk Packers, Brewers, and Bucks every day. Every day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily with Steve Sparky Fifer. Served up by Wendy's on 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan. Download the Wendy's app today.
Welcome in as we broadcast live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky with you. Come find us on YouTube. We are here at The Fan Milwaukee. Use the @ symbol, at The Fan Milwaukee on YouTube. We're streaming all of our local shows live. You can find different shorts we put up, different video highlights from the shows as well. Again, at The Fan Milwaukee. Use the @ symbol on YouTube. And come experience what it's like on YouTube. Again, we've been doing this for, 4 weeks? This is week 5, I think it is. So little by little, or as we like to say here on the radio station, brick by brick, we're building this radio station back up. And in this case, brand new, because we've never had any type of video streaming on this station previously. So this is a first time for the fan in general. Coming up this hour, Ryan Horvath, BetMGM tonight. He'll join us coming up here at 3:20. Looking for that. And I want to see what he thinks as far as this division. Charlie, did you realize, he says he's not. I'm convinced he's a closet Bears fan. I mean, I know he's a Packers fan first, but for the last 3 years, nobody talks more positively about, the Bears are going to be good this year. The Bears are going to be good this year. I love Justin Fields. I really like Caleb Williams. And then when you call Horvath out, no, I'm a Packers fan. No. I'm not convinced.
I don't know. We talked to him for, 18 straight weeks during the football season, and he was pretty positive about the Bears a lot.
Yes!
I would think that if he didn't say he was a Packers fan, there might be some Bears fans in there.
Man, he's so up on the Bears. It's just so weird. It's like, dude, you say you're a Packers fan, but nobody talks more glowingly about that damn team for the last 3 or 4 years than you at this point. But either way, so we'll talk to him about BetMGM tonight coming up at 3:20. See what he has to say about the Central, or the NFC North, I should say. Charlie Sounds of the Day comes up at 3:40. And then at 4 o'clock, we'll check in on our Green and Gold Update brought to you by the Potawatomi Sportsbook with Jacob Westendorf, Packers on SI, and looking forward to getting his thoughts on training camp. Now, let's talk a little bit about Packers training camp today. Now, I will tell you right now that I'm going to use Andy Herman, our guy from the Pack a Day radio show. Hear him weekday mornings from 8 to 9 here on the station. And tomorrow morning, you'll want to tune in because he'll give you his firsthand account of what he saw today. He'll be at all the training camp practices and be involved in all of that. And, of course, you can follow him as well on the Pack a Day radio show right here on the Fan YouTube page as well. Now participating today in camp, no Quay Walker, no Christian Watson, Micah Robinson, Colin Oliver, Amar Johnson, John Williams, Elton Jenkins. Okay? Now, having said that, of that list, I think the most positive review that I saw was Christian Watson, who was on the field, walking around, doing his thing. It appears he is rehabbing very, very well at this point for the Green Bay Packers and is looking like he'll definitely be back this season for sure. Now it's just a matter of how cautious will they be as far as how early will they allow him to return.
He rode a bike into camp, man, and he looked pretty good doing it. I mean, that was pretty exciting. I was surprised by that. I've had friends who've torn their ACLs, and I know you can walk on it, but doing things like riding a bike for a prolonged time really tires you out. So the fact that he's doing that already, coming off this injury, is really exciting.
That's pretty cool, too. Every time you see the riding of the bike thing, right? Jordan Love still riding a bike in. Matthew Golden getting to do it for the first time, riding a bike in the rookie class and all of that. Say whatever you want about the Packers organization, but that tradition is very cool. I think the guys love that tradition. The Quay Walker thing, they need to get him back, man. I need him in training camp with Jeff Hafley to kind of go over of how they're going to run this, especially if Isaiah Simmons is going to be a bigger part of this kind of going forward. To have him and Cooper out there with Walker all on the field together, playing together, building that chemistry and working forward. I think that would be a big deal for certain for the Packers. Now, when we get to team drills here, this is what the stars look like according to Andy Herman I was Love, Jacobs, Kraft, Dobbs, Reed, Wicks. Okay, no surprise there. Walker, Banks, Ryan at center, because remember, no Elton Jenkins. Morgan at right guard, Zach Tom at right tackle, freshly off of that new signed contract by him. I don't think there's any surprises with the starting group there for the Green Bay Packers because in a normal world, Elton Jenkins is your center and Sean Ryan's at right guard. Morgan is off the bench. Everything else looks like you would probably expect it to look probably going into week one unless Matthew Golden steals a spot at wide receiver.
Which is possible. He looked good today. Apparently there was a couple throws from guys like Malik Willis to him that were in tight windows, and Matthew Golden made a good play. If he keeps doing that through this camp, I think he's going to be one of the players that's going to have the easiest path to a top spot in this roster.
RBI double for Canzoni for the Mariners. Now 2-1 Brewers, still 2 outs. Canzoni on second with the number 8 hitter Williamson at bat now going up against Quinn Priester. But again, Brewers up 2-1 right now in that one. All right, so now let's get into a couple of things that we see here from Andy Herman. First, let's talk about Josh Jacobs. If you go and you look at the play-by-play on social media from any of these Packer writers, what you're going to see is throwing the ball to Josh Jacobs, throwing the ball to Josh Jacobs, throwing the ball to Josh Jacobs. I'm fine with that. If they want to increase throwing the ball to Josh Jacobs, Charlie, in my world, that works.
Throwing it to Josh Jacobs, I saw a lot of throwing it to Tucker Kraft today. Sounds like the type of offense we've been asking for them to run for the past year or so. It sounds like a lot of play action, and that ends up with the running back getting a lot of catches and the tight ends getting a lot of catches. Feels like what's right for this team.
No doubt. And this is exactly what we've been talking about this offense looking like. Now tied at 2 Brewers and Mariners. Williams hit a pop-up into the middle of nowhere. Infielders running, outfielders running, fell in between nowhere. Couldn't have thrown it any better to have it fall between everybody. So now 2-2 Mariners and the Brewers. You brought up Tucker Kraft. That is obviously something else that stood out in this whole deal as far as how they're going to use him kind of going forward in this offense. I will say I'm pretty excited if they continue to use him the way they were kind of using him today. Golden started off with the 2s, but eventually started running with the 1s, Charlie. Again, you know, I'm Matt LaFleur. Don't read into it. Fine. But don't you think when you draft a wide receiver in the first round, similar to the offensive lineman that doesn't play, that you'd want him on the field as much as possible out there? I mean, if we're talking about the starting 3 wide receivers without Christian Watson, okay, who are they? Who are your starting 3 wideouts? No Christian Watson because he's hurt, right? So when Watson comes back, he takes somebody's spot. But as of right now, week 1 against the Lions, if you're making your call right now after one training camp practice, what do you think it looks like?
Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed, and probably Matthew Golden. I feel like I want to say
takes Wicks.
I want to say Wicks, but at the same time, when you graded out as one of the worst wide receivers in the NFL last season,
as did Reed,
kind of hard to put you. At least Reed has some other value, I guess, in other facets of the game, and I think that his just playmaking ability when he has the ball in his hands is so much more dangerous than a guy like Wicks. Wicks, yes, can burn you a little bit with the routes and can help you out that way, but Matthew Golden can do that too. So I'd rather just put the first-round rookie in there.
Yeah, that's the one thing too that you think about. Do you go just speed? Right, the 3 speed merchants that you got, and Dobbs is the guy that's the odd guy out, and you go with 3 guys that can get downfield, get separation, coming across the middle, and do different things like that? Or do you go with that possession guy like Dobbs, who Jordan Love has a connection with and trusts in those big moments, and play Dobbs? I tend to agree with you. I think Wicks ends up being the odd guy out at the end of the day. Love did throw a interception trying to get the ball to Dontavian Wicks, and he was picked off by Xavier McKinney. That was an end zone interception trying to throw a corner route, so nothing too big of a deal there to, I think, get too excited about. Malik Willis, on the other hand, he threw a couple touchdown passes. Malik Willis, 1 to McCole Hardman, threw 1 to Matthew Golden. Now, again, I understand that they are not wearing, or they're not tackling each other, right? These are shells, essentially. It's helmets, shoulder pads, whatever else, and shorts, and they're running around. So you don't want to make too much of this necessarily at the end of the day. But I'm telling you right now, for the rest of training camp and the exhibition season, anytime Malik Willis does something good, I'm going to smile and be excited about that. Because if another offseason makes him even better than what he looked like last year, you're building trade value from Malik Willis to where you can get something significant maybe if he has a good preseason here coming up for the Packers.
I think if you're looking at this team, I think that's what you're asking for from a lot of players on a lot of these position groups, is that you're hoping that a lot of them can take themselves out of that second tier and make a name for themselves. We see Marshawn Lloyd get a lot of reps with that running back 2's rooms. You want to see him take that next step. You want to see the Jordan Morgans take that next step. I think this is all things that we have to focus on with this Green Bay Packers team through training camp. It's not about what these veterans can do anymore. I think we all know what the goal is for Jordan Love this season. We all know what a goal is for a Quay Walker and a Rashawn Gary and a Kenny Clark. It's about all these other guys that have a little bit more undefined goals to start defining those goals and make a name for yourself in order to help this team take that next step.
Absolutely right. He's Charlie Houston, Steve Sparky, Fifer with you. One other thing I want to mention here before we get to Ryan Horvath. Wes Hakowitz from Packers.com tweeted out a special teams thing earlier. Catching punts today, Reed, Nixon, Hardman, Dobbs, Golden, Wicks. No reason in the world that Romeo Dobbs should be returning punts with his concussion issues and everything else. That is crazy talk to have Romeo Dobbs back there catching punts. Maybe they were bored. Dude, you're annoying me. Go catch punts. I don't know, but I'm just saying, Charlie, that is the last place I want Romeo Dobbs, if you value him at all, in returning punts. Rest of these cats, right? Reed can run, Nixon can run, Harmon runs, Golden's good, Wicks can run. Dobbs isn't as fast as those cats, and he's got concussion issues. No reason he should be on that unit.
I think that's more so the first day of training camp. It seems like a lot of the other wide receivers were over there too. And I'm sure the other wide receivers that weren't there, they were working on some other special teams group, like punt return or kickoff, something else where like a guy like Malik Heath is going to get some more run. I think that's just kind of more so we're doing special teams right now. We have nowhere to send Romeo, just send him to go return punts.
I'm not a big fan of meddling owners and so forth, but they don't have a meddling owner, right? We don't believe that's the case right now because we're in transition from Murphy. But if I'm Brian Gutekunst, I know they were talking, him and Matt LaFleur. There's pictures all over the internet, those two talking. I'd walk over to Matt LaFleur and be like, hey, get Romeo Dobbs off that punt and return unit, please. I don't want him out there with these concussion issues. Get him off that unit. We don't need him. I got McCole Hardman, all these other cats that are super fast. We don't need him. Get him out of there. I want him involved in that practice, thinking he should be out there returning punts. I got to listen to that next. No, there's no chance. I would have ended that quickly had I been Brian Gutekunst. Coming up next, Ryan Horvath, Bet MGM tonight. We'll see his thoughts on the NFC North and the NFC. Here's a side to never skip breakfast again. Wendy's breakfast biscuits are just $1. Your choice of a buttermilk biscuit with grilled sausage or bacon with egg and melted cheese, or even the honey buddy with juicy chicken and maple honey butter. Bring your napkins. For just $1, you can't go wrong unless you forget to add the delicious seasoned potatoes, or the warm, fluffy French toast sticks, or even the ooey gooey Cinnabon. Come on, start your day the right way with Buck Biscuits at Wendy's, and don't look back. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan Studios. Steve Sparky, Fifer with you. Time for your fan weather forecast. Right now, it is getting hotter, folks. It's getting hotter. 90 degrees outside right now with a real feel, Charlie, of 103.
All right.
A real feel of 103.
Gonna go get my air conditioning in my car fixed.
Good luck. Low of 76. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy. Steve Sparky Fifer with you. Charlie using other side of the glass. Speaking of Charlie sounds of the day. Top 3 clips from around the world of the internet, social media, coming up at you here at about 3:40. Joining us now on the Fan Guest Hotline, powered by Gruber Law, it is Ryan Horvath of BetMGM tonight. Hear him weeknights on the BetMGM radio network. Follow him on Twitter at Ryan Horvath. Can stream the show as well on the Odyssey app, AUDACY. Mr. Horvath, how are you?
Doing pretty good. Heading into work right now. I start to get excited usually like the start of August, man. Not that I don't like baseball, but it's just such a long season and there's so many ups and downs, whereas like in the NFL, you get one game every single week, or college football, so it's easier to handicap, and I like it a little bit more, especially as a Cubs fan, because, you know, I've had like 3 good years my entire life of baseball.
Speaking of you being a Cubs fan, Charlie and I were having this conversation, and we are kind of leaning that you are a closet Bears fan. We kind of think that there's nobody more positive on a year-to-year basis than Ryan Horvath the last couple of years.
No, see, but like I bet these games, and I like to bet win totals and futures, and I kind of like what Chicago's doing here now. Like, I like the Caleb Williams draft pick because I really liked Caleb Williams' bold stop.
And you like Justin Fields as well, and you were hot on that bandwagon too, yes?
Justin Fields, we'll see this year, man, with Garrett Wilson, with Breece Hall, with hopefully a better offensive line, and hopefully the Jets have better play calling than they did for Aaron Rodgers, although that was his own fault for bringing in Nathaniel Hackett. I don't know, man. Like, Justin Fields never really had a fair shake. He played behind one of the worst offensive lines in football. That coaching staff was brutal. But I like Ben Johnson, and I like Dennis Allen as a defensive coordinator, not so much a head coach. I like Eric Bieniemy as a running back coach, not so much a play caller. I like what they've done with that coaching staff, and I like Caleb Williams. The only knock on Caleb Williams is he holds on to the ball a little bit too long, but with Ben Johnson, I don't think that's going to be the case, kind of like it was with Jared Goff. Although today, if you're on social media, you probably saw the tweets that he pulled the first-team offense off the field. Ben Johnson wasn't happy with Caleb Williams. So, yeah, maybe I'm too positive with the Bears, and I'm wrong, but I like the hire. I like Caleb, and we'll see. The only concern I would have if I were a Bears fan is that pass rush, because especially in this conference, man, with all these good receivers and quarterbacks, you're going to need a solid pass rush, I think, to win the division.
Caleb Williams is going to be toast if he fails this year. Toast, yep. Baby. It's over if it doesn't work with Ben Johnson. It's going to be all done for Caleb Johnson or Caleb Williams 2 years into his career. Ryan Horvath, BetMGM tonight. Follow him on Twitter at Ryan Horvath. He joins us here on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's. All right, so let's talk about the Green Bay Packers. You brought up the play caller for the New York Jets, Nathaniel Hackett, who coincidentally is a member of this Packers team currently and is playing the role opposite of what we had Saleh playing last year when he was here. So he is helping the Packers defense out from an offensive perspective this year. There are people that are excited about this. Stop me if you disagree, but this frightens the hell out of me if I'm having his voice involved in anything with the Packers right now.
I mean, I think that he knows football, right? But, I mean, he doesn't have a very good resume here the last couple of years as Aaron Rodgers gopher. But, as long as he's not calling the plays.
Nope.
Because, again, I mean, to get to this stage as a coach, he has to know a thing or two about football. So I don't really mind that role. There's a good chance that he's probably gone next year and somebody hires him again. I don't know as what, a quarterback coach or whatever, but I think it's just Matt LaFleur doing his buddy a service. Kind of like Adam Sandler, right? Like he puts all of his friends in all of his movies, Nick Swartzen and Rob Schneider and all those guys, even though they're not very talented at this stage of their careers. I think that's what LaFleur is doing here, is just helping a buddy out.
Yeah, I think that's a very accurate way of looking at it. This Packers offense today, first day of training camp, see a lot of throwing the ball to Josh Jacobs, see some good throws to Tucker Kraft, Matthew Golden getting involved with Malik Willis. Some positive things from this Packers offense. Christian Watson looks like he's really doing well in his recovery. Maybe he'll be back sooner than we all expected going into this thing. What are your expectations as far as how this offense is going to run this year? Because realistically, we've seen like 4 different versions of what this offense has been the last 2 years.
I think it's going to be a top 10 offense. I'm hoping that they could be a top 5 offense in the NFL. I really do, man. I know I was a little fully healthy. He was probably 70% at best, week 2 on. Week 1 was fluky because they played on a slip and slide, but I still think that Jordan Love could be an MVP candidate. In fact, I had to bet it because it's 28-1. I bet him and Brock Purdy because I think those prices are crazy, and I think they're both going to throw the ball. The thing is, though, and I mean, if you look at Green Bay, what they've done in the draft, the money that they spent on Aaron Banks, I think they still want to be a smash-mouth, almost run-first offense with Josh Jacobs. I mean, I do think that they'll probably look to use him a little bit more as a pass catcher. I also really like Marshawn Lloyd, man. If he could stay healthy, I think he could be involved in the offense as well. But you go out, you draft Matthew Golden. I didn't think that was going to be possible because I figured Dallas would take him. Instead, they go out and get George Pickens. I loved Matthew Golden at the collegiate level. Is, like the speedster, a guy that could take the top off the defense. Needs to be a little bit more consistent, I'd say, but he can make sideline catches. So I love his skill set. Hopefully they do get Christian Watson back at some point, before week 13 would be nice. Romeo Doubs could be your underneath possession receiver. And Tucker Kraft, man, especially if you play fantasy football, I think he's going to have a huge season. We talked with a couple different people that think he might lead the team in targets. I don't know about all that. But, man, I think he's going to have a big year. And let's not forget about Luke Musgrave. He just has to stay healthy. So you could run some 12 personnel, 2 tight end sets. I'm really excited as long as everybody stays healthy. I don't think Josh Jacobs is going anywhere for a couple of years, meaning like Derrick Henry last year. I thought maybe there would be a dip in his production. Instead, he had one of his best seasons as a pro. These guys just take care of their bodies. So even at 28 years old, I think he's going to have a monster year. My only concern, I guess, would be the offensive line protecting Jordan Love. But as long as they do and he stays healthy, I think he could be an MVP candidate, and I think they could be top 10, maybe even top 5 offense in the league, man.
I'll tell you, I agree with whoever was telling you about Tucker Kraft leading this team in targets. That's what it should be. He should be getting 8 to 10 balls a game. Let him go be Kelsey. Let him go be, Kittle or whatever. He has that type of ability. And let Jordan Love, use him in the middle of the field and attack guys. Man, he's going to break tackles. He's going to run over dudes. He's going to do all that stuff. He's got the most sure hands as far as anybody else he throws the football to at this point. Definitely more so than any wide receiver he has. So from that perspective, it would make a lot of sense if he becomes your number 1 target, similar, like I said, to a Kelsey or Gronkowski or something like that.
Well, exactly, and that's what they need, right? Like, I like Dobbs, like his skill set, and I love the draft pick of Matthew Golden, but we don't need Jordan Love just throwing deep balls all game long, right? That said, I do want Matt LaFleur to kind of, loosen up the handcuffs a little bit this year. Let's see this. I want this to be Jordan Love's team and Jordan Love's offense, right? Not just Josh Jacobs, but let's make things easy on them. Kind of like the second half of the season 2 years ago when they made that run and ended up beating Dallas in Dallas, ultimately losing to San Francisco. But the reason Jordan Love was a top 3 quarterback the second half of the season was LaFleur was, as the kids say, in his bag with the play calling, man. And that's what I want from Green Bay this year. More pre-snap motion, more play action. And how about this? Let's use Jordan Love as a weapon. Also, he's more athletic, I think, than Matt LaFleur knows about. I'm not saying that he's Jalen Hurts, but more read option stuff. I think that the offense is going to look a lot different this year. Jaden Reed also, I really like his skill set. I think we all do. But he needs to be involved a little bit more. I want to see more targets for Jaden Reed. You don't need to make him a gadget guy or anything like that. I think that could be, honestly, Marshawn. But I really am excited for Jaden Reed this year as well, man. But Tucker Kraft should see 8 to 10 targets per game. And that goes back to Matt LaFleur making the offense a little bit easier for Jordan Love. More checkdowns. Use the middle of the field like Aaron Rodgers never did.
Talking with Ryan Horvath, BetMGM tonight. Follow him on Twitter at Ryan Horvath as he joins us here on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, broadcasting live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM, the Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Stream us on your Odyssey app. Watch us on YouTube as well as we live stream at The Fan Milwaukee on YouTube. Again, the @ symbol, The Fan Milwaukee. We have shorts, we have videos, have all the live streaming of all the local shows too. So make sure to subscribe, all that fun stuff like you do for everybody else with us here on YouTube at The Fan. Steve Sparky Fifer with you. What about the Detroit Lions? They lose both of their coordinators. And I think there is some concern amongst everybody, including in Detroit, that team is poised maybe to take a step back at this point.
Yeah, man, I worry about the defensive side of the ball. Even with Aiden Hutchinson on the field, they generated no pass rush, and he led the league in pressures. Then he got hurt, and that pass rush completely fell off a cliff, which is why they had home field advantage and couldn't beat a rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels. And that would be my concern, right? Kind of like the Baltimore Ravens a couple of years ago. They had the best defense in the league. They had the Chiefs at home, and they were running the ball for 6 yards per carry. What do? They dropped Lamar back 40 times. I feel like if Detroit couldn't reach the Super Bowl last year with Ben Johnson, with Aaron Glenn, and with home field advantage, and again, a rookie quarterback coming to visit, I don't know that it's ever going to happen, man. And I do worry about Jared Goff regressing a little bit. The last 3 years, he's thrown for over 4,000 yards. But let's not forget what happened 4 or 5 years ago when he was benched for a man named John Wolford, right? Going into the playoffs by Sean McVay. So that's what I worry about. You have Jamison Williams, who I don't know if he wants to be there because he wants to be paid like a number one wide receiver. He's not going to be paid like a number one wide receiver because they're already paying St. Brown. They're going to have to pay Laporta. But, yeah, I worry about that defense, man. Other than Aiden Hutchinson, your next best pass rusher is Marcus Davenport. He hasn't played 10-plus games in 4 seasons.
Right.
So I think they take a step back. I bet the under on their win total at 10.5. I think they finish in third in the division.
The other team we obviously have to talk about are the Vikings, and their whole season hinges on their quarterback right now.
Yeah, man, and last night I kind of went over this in my head because I think everybody just figures that they're going to finish in last place, and maybe they do, and maybe it's because of J.J. McCarthy. But who was high on Sam Darnold going into last year? Nobody. The reason Sam Darnold looked good, though, was the Kevin O'Connell offense.
Agreed.
I think Kevin O'Connell's a top 5 head coach, man. He might be one of the best head coaches in the league. And if J.J. McCarthy could just make the throws, they could still win double-digit games. Justin Jefferson's still the second-best receiver in the league next to Jamar Chase. T.J. Hawkinson's actually healthy this year. Aaron Jones is another one of those running backs that it doesn't look like he's going anywhere for a couple of years. And then they have Jordan Addison. And let's not forget what that defense looked like last year. They almost made, Brock Purdy cry a couple of times because of that defense. And I don't know. I think Minnesota could either win 6 games or they could win 11 and 12 games again. So they're kind of the ultimate wild card for me. I do lean under on their win total, though, just because J.J. McCarthy is really a rookie.
Yeah, and that's the thing, too. I mean, even in OTAs, he was having issues in OTAs. If you go back and look at the mandatory minicamp and so forth, he was having his struggles. But I agree with you. I think Kevin O'Connell is really good, and we'll see how good he is having to get J.J. McCarthy up to speed there. In the NFC, who are the main competitors for the Packers as far as, coming out of the NFC? Obviously, the Lions have to be in that conversation. The Eagles have to be in that conversation. We know that. Who else?
Yeah, so I did bet Green Bay like I always do, but this year I feel pretty good about it, man, where they're boom or bust, right? This should be the Super Bowl window now the next 2 to 3 years for Jordan Love. He got the contract. They have the talent. Comes down to the defense. I think they got the right guy at coordinator, obviously. Well, I worry a little bit about the secondary now that Jair's gone, and I worry about the pass rush, man. Van Ness or Rashawn Gary need 12.5 to 13 sacks, I feel, this season. So I do think they're a contender. As far as their competitors, I don't know that Philadelphia is going anywhere. I do think that they're going to have some competition in the division. I don't know that I'm out on the Cowboys, man. In the playoffs I am, but they could win 11, 12 games. Micah Parsons is pissed and playing for a contract, so I expect the defense to be okay. Dak's fully healthy. I like the Pickens pickup because he doesn't have to be the number one guy. We'll see if he's okay with that. But CeeDee Lamb's going to be healthy. Dallas might be kind of scary, but I still think the Eagles are the team to beat in that division. I like San Francisco again, but let's see if they have a wide receiver, man, because Juwan Jennings wants a new contract. He's definitely not getting that after 1 year, over 70 receptions. Debo's gone. We learned today Brandon Ayuk's nowhere close to being healthy. George Kittle just got paid, but he's 30 years old. That said, though, I like Robert Saleh back as defensive coordinator.
For sure.
I could see them, being scary. My sleeper team, though, Sparky, you might laugh at this, the Arizona Cardinals, man. Let's not forget a couple of years ago, they were undefeated. They lost to Green Bay on that Thursday night game. Kyler got hurt, and he just hasn't been the same quarterback since. I think Marvin Harrison's going to take that year 2 leap.
He better. Because I don't think Marvin Harrison was everything everybody thought Marvin Harrison was going to be last year.
No, and it didn't help that Malik Neighbors had one of the best rookie seasons of all time as a wide receiver, right, and went after him. But also, Jonathan Gannon, I like Jonathan Gannon. I like his defensive concepts. He just hasn't had the horses. This year they spent a ton of money. I love what they did in the draft. I don't know that they're going to be like a super the Niners. I like the Eagles. And then I kind of like Atlanta this year with Michael Penix. That offense looked really good with Michael Penix those last 3 games. It comes down to, though, the defense. I like what they did in the draft, but can those guys stay healthy? So those will be my teams.
Yeah, I'm not buying the Falcons. But, the rest of it, the Cowboys, I'm not in on the Cowboys either. I can understand the rest of the teams that you picked, though. I get down with a lot of that. Here's Ryan Horvath, BetMGM tonight. You're definitely going to want to check them out weeknights on your Odyssey app. You can stream it live, or if you're listening already somewhere else that has a BetMGM radio station near you, you can listen to it that way as well. Ryan, thank you so much, man. Appreciate it.
Spark, thanks so much, man. I'm glad that you didn't ask me about the Badgers because that's the worst schedule. That's Phil Steele's #1 toughest schedule in America. I don't know that they win 4 games, and then I'm worried about Luke Fickell's future after that.
You should see Badgers Twitter. I've seen people predicting them to win 7 games, and I literally came on the air and said, "You're nuts." Yeah. There's no way. No, I agree with you.
That's not happening.
I agree with you. All right, take care. There he is, Ryan Horvath, BetMGM tonight. Follow him on Twitter at Ryan Horvath, joining us on the Fan Guest Hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call. That's all. And Charlie's Sounds of the Day is coming up next here on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the 1250 AM 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky with you.
What sound clips will Chicago Charlie pick today for Sparky? Will Sparky become enraged? Will laughter ensue? It's time for Charlie's Sound of the Day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's on The Fan.
All right, top 3 Things that Charlie found in the world of sports most of the time. Sometimes it's outside the world of sports. Most of the time it's inside the world of sports. As we broadcast live from the 1250 AM and 1057 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Charlie Usen, where to first?
All right, so I think I may make you angry with a couple of these clips here. The first one.
Hold on 1 second before you do that. Brewers are up now 5-2 in the bottom of the fourth. They got 3 more runs in the last inning against Luis Castillo. So 5-2 Brewers, bottom of 4. All right, go ahead.
Just to make yourself a little happier before you get angry? Yeah.
Yes.
So first up here, we're going to hear from Nick Wright of Fox Sports 1. This is from his podcast, though, What's Right?
That's like the only show, well, not the podcast, but his show
left.
is the only show that didn't get cut by
they just stuck Danny Parkins on the end of his show now. That was
what?
So they're adding an extra hour onto I forget what the name of his show.
First
Nick
Things
Wright.
First.
Yes, First Things First. They're adding an extra hour onto the end of it. That's Danny Parkins
by himself.
I think it's by himself or either just joining the show every day.
Because him and Nick Wright are boys from their Kansas City days.
So I think that's what it is. Parkins is still under contract. Might as well use him somehow, some way. And Fox, I guess. Really interesting. But this is Nick Wright discussing the WNBA salary conversation.
Oh, boy.
And he had a little bit of a different take on it than you did, Sparky.
The Kelsey Plum thing, I think, was totally misconstrued. But because Caitlin Clark's name was involved, people took it and ran with it. That's not the story. The story is how many people are such utter losers. Nobody serious is arguing that the WNBA players and the NBA players should make the same amount of money. But nobody serious can actually think that Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and Paige Beckers making 70-some grand a year is a proper payment for services rendered. Is there any other capitalistic endeavor? So I'm not talking about social workers. I'm not talking about kindergarten teachers. I'm not talking about firemen. Capitalistic endeavor where someone of Caitlin Clark's quality would make less than $80,000 a year? And the answer is no. It is just outrageous, the amount of people that were like, pipe down, ladies, be happy. So many losers are just bootlicking management sellouts.
Okay, let's start with what we know. They negotiated this CBA before Caitlin Clark was in the WNBA, okay? So she is playing under what is their rookie contract scale, and that is how that is set up at this point. Understand? Okay. Highest paid player in 2025. Couple of them. Several of them. All making about the same amount of money. The number one player is Kelsey Mitchell. Know who that is?
I do know who that is.
Who she play for?
I would say, that's tough too. I just know the name. Las Vegas? No, New York then?
She plays with Caitlin Clark in Indiana.
Oh, Indiana? Oh.
Yeah, see, I know her.
I know her name. I've heard the name.
Okay. So $249,244, and I bet you 99% of the people, if you went around the state of Wisconsin asking who Kelsey Mitchell was, would not have a clue of who Kelsey Mitchell is.
Wouldn't even have heard her name, yeah.
$249,000 a year for that. Jewel Lloyd from Las Vegas, $249,000. Enrique from Dallas, a local one here, right? Ogumbule, is that how you say it?
Ogumbawale.
Oh, close. $249,000. Copper from Phoenix, $248,000. Gabby Williams from Seattle, $225,000. And then there's, let's see. So let's go down the list here. There are like somewhere in the area of about 30 players that are making $200,000 or more per year in the NBA, WNBA, okay? If we go to $150,000 or more, that list gets to be closer to 50 players that are making $150,000 or more at this point.
Which there's not that many teams in the WNBA, so you're starting to get to a pretty big chunk of the players there.
Right. Now, this is the thing. Do we believe, and I really want to know this, do we believe that when Caitlin Clark hits free agency, that she's not going to cash in? Do we believe that she's going to be making $70,000 a year when she reaches the open market? Do we believe that's what's going to happen?
No, she's probably very easily going to make the biggest contract in WNBA history For sure.
Okay. The WNBA secured a new 11-year media rights deal worth $2.2 billion. What was that, last year that happened? This deal, negotiated alongside the NBA's new media rights agreement, will see the WNBA earn an average of $200 million per year. The deal includes partnerships with ESPN, NBC, and Amazon. The increase represents a significant jump in value, with the WNBA's media rights revenue potentially more than tripling. Can I make another prediction if you all don't mind?
Go for it.
Okay. The previous deal was $60 million per year. So this, again, is tripling it. So, yes, when it comes time to seek a new deal because of Caitlin Clark, they will get probably more money thrown at them from owners, citing the new TV deal and streaming rights deal and saying, okay, you're getting all this money. We need a larger chunk of that money and so forth. Let me predict that when this next deal is done after 11 years, it will go backwards and it will not go forwards. And for the first time in a long time, you will see a TV rights deal go the other way. Because if you're going to convince me that they're going to sell that much and more per year, I mean, if you're paying $200 million a year, just using like radio and TV kind of thing, right? If I'm paying so much to have somebody on the air, I need to make so much back. That means to make this worth their while, they're going to have to sell somewhere between around what, $500 to $600 million in advertising for WNBA games? Okay, we'll see how this works. I mean, it's working right now to a degree because you're going to have all these people tuning in to watch Caitlin Clark. But as we talked about earlier, I've seen one Caitlin Clark jersey in 2 years. One. And it wasn't even in this state. It was in Illinois at a youth baseball game. Some dude was wearing one. And the team that we were playing was from Indiana. So that would explain it. But outside of that, I haven't seen it anywhere else around here. Not seeing the Caitlin Clark jerseys. Maybe I don't go to the right places to see Caitlin Clark jerseys, but I don't see them. So again, they can talk about making more money. Should Clark be making more than $70,000 a year? Absolutely. That CBA was negotiated before she came into the league. And if she wasn't in the league, if she wasn't here, Caitlin Clark didn't exist, Nick Wright wouldn't even be talking about the WNBA right now. Nobody would be talking about the WNBA right now. Nobody. Just like there was nobody talking about it beforehand. Nobody. So again, she will get a new CBA deal done because she's Caitlin Clark and people watch. But will those amount of people tuning in continue to tune in at the rate they have been so far? That's what we need to see. And if that number drops, the advertisers will go along with it if they can't sustain numbers. All right, go ahead.
All right, next up here, we're going to go from one person defending the little guy to another person trying to defend a kind of little guy. This is SMU head coach Rhett Lashley on the ACC deserving more credit in college football.
When it comes to our league, it should be talked about more. It should be easy. I just shed some light on. I mean, there's only been 3 leagues win a national championship that have teams in their league right now since 1990. All the teams that have won a national championships in 1990 are either in the ACC, the SEC, or the Big Ten. Since I mentioned in the last 15 years, we're tied for the second most championships with 3 with the Big Ten. I don't know why that's not talked about more. We have national brands. We've won championships. The revenue is almost double who's fourth. We have our own network, the competition, the investment. I just think it speaks for itself. And so most people want to see things decided on the field, so let's let it happen that way. I don't think there's any question that if it stayed at 12, we're every year a multi-bid league. I mean, Miami should have been last year at 10-2. There's no question they were one of the top 12 teams in America. But it does get tough, and especially when you have a human committee making decisions. Again, it's a hard job. It's set up for failure. They're great people. They do the best they can.
Okay. This, again, is a situation of knowing your surroundings. This isn't about how many championships y'all have in the history of the ACC or in the history of the last 20 years. This is all about what people are watching on TV and what advertisers are willing to spend the most money for, right? When SEC games are on, people are watching. Even if they're not SEC fans, people are tuning in and watching. Big Ten games are on. A lot of the times, people are tuning in and watching. A part of that is the Big Ten was smart. Even though y'all disagree, they went and got a couple West Coast teams. Prior to that, they got some East Coast teams. They covered the whole damn country from the East Coast to the West Coast. That's a lot of big fan bases that are tuning in to watch their games. And then in the South, the SEC, you know what that's all about. And then you add Texas. You add Oklahoma fan bases to watch all these teams. Again, not stupid. So from that perspective, those teams, those top teams, not the bottom teams, not as much, but those top teams in both of those conferences are usually the dominant teams year in and year out. Consistently, normally the same teams, right? But then you take that, how much they're getting on the TV rights deal, and the amount of people that are following and buying merchandising and everything else. Those two are clearly the top two in college football, Charlie.
Clearly. And I think when he's talking about, oh, the ACC has all these national championships and they're tied with the Big Ten. Dude, it's Clemson and Miami. Outside of that, are we really looking at anybody being truly that competitive?
And it's not even Miami recently.
No, not even. That was early 2000s. That's when they were last kind of that dominant. And yes, I think he was right. Miami probably did deserve a spot in that college football playoff last year based on how they played in the regular season.
Yep.
But at the same time, you have to figure out how to say that it's worth it to the NCAA to give you that extra guaranteed spot. You have to talk them into saying that a team like Miami, who can't fill the NFL stadium that they currently play in right now, is worth putting into their national championship bracket that is all about just making money. They could care less about who comes out of that and who wins that. They know it's probably going to be the same result as if it was the 4-team playoff. All they care about is how much money each of these teams are bringing in. And I think last year, Cam Ward wasn't enough to say that Miami deserves to be in there because Cam Ward wasn't bringing the same type of money that a guy like Ashton Genty brought to Boise State.
That's absolutely correct. Well said, Charlie Usen. Well said as always. Nicely done. Is that 3 or got one more?
One more.
One more.
Last up here, a little bit more of a fun one. This is Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel over the past 2 days at training camp has been treating the media members kind of like his team.
Whether you were in a coma when I answered Tom's question or typing on your phone or tweeting, I don't know, but I spent 5 minutes answering that question. And I can go back through it, but I'd rather not.
At the end of the day, what would make a successful training camp for your team at the end of this summer?
Well, if we can remember what the objectives of training camp were, which were, do you remember?
You said, no.
No.
That was yesterday. There were 3 things.
Build a team.
Okay.
Remember, Mike? Earn a role. You remember the last one? Prepare to win. You guys are on fire today.
I can't blame them. I mean, sometimes when coaches are jerks, it's like, dude, what is your deal? Like, that was a fair question. Just answer the question. It's another thing when people are in the press corps that are there every day repeating questions because they don't have anything fresh, but they feel like they have to ask something. So we'll just ask it all over again and repackage it and see if he'll answer it again. And Vrabel has been through 1 million of these press conferences as head coach, another 1 million as a player, and is just sick of all of it. Like, we're not doing this. If you don't have anything new to ask me, just don't ask me. And if you don't remember the answer, go back and listen to your recording from the day before or get it from somebody else. But I ain't doing this all over again today after I just did it. And to call a dude out and be like, hey, were you on Twitter? Were you texting on your phone? What were you doing? Bet you money that's exactly what that person was doing and not paying attention to what the coach was saying. I think that's fair. I got no issue with it.
Well, and he probably had a preset list of questions because when I was going through school just 2 years ago, that was what they were telling me to do during interviews is have this preset list of questions. You don't always have to follow it, but you can kind of get into it. And if he's not paying attention, he just looks at that list of questions and picks the one that he liked the best and says it. Yeah, somebody probably asked that before, but that's why I always say, or how I go about it, is just have a topic in mind. Don't really come up with the question until you hear the person talk about it, because you may not be the first person. Then figure out a question on the spot. It's not that hard, especially if you've been doing this for a while now. You can change it up a little bit.
I think anybody that's starting out doing this, I think having a list of questions is good, especially if you're doing a long form interview where it's just you and the person, right? You're sitting down, you're getting 15 minutes or a half hour with somebody to interview. Absolutely come in with a bunch of questions. Did you ever watch the Charlie Rose show?
No.
So Charlie Rose used to do one-on-one interviews with all kinds of different celebrities. It was on PBS. It was amazing. Charlie Rose was on 60 Minutes for years. And he would literally have a stack of cards, and each one was a question. And he would just go through them as they went along. And he did all this research and all this background, bring up from the time the person was a child, he had questions, all the way up and through. It was a huge stack of what are those called? Notebook cards or whatever they're called? Note cards?
No cards.
Yeah, no cards. All the way through. That was great. But at the same time, you're listening, and if they say something, you don't have to ask the next question on the next card. It can just be, hey, all right, I'm going to use a follow-up here because that was something I didn't expect him to say or her, and ask your question, and then hop back into your line of questioning after that.
Just feel like in this situation, you can't have that same kind of mentality. It's a little different. You're fighting for a spot to ask that question. You get one chance. It better be the best question you got of that day, man.
I don't. And Andrew Wagner and I think, disagree on this a little bit. I don't believe if you go to a presser that you have to ask a question.
I don't think so either.
I don't believe that is true. No. If you have a question that makes sense and you want an answer and nobody else is going to ask that question, by all means, ask your question. Ask 2, ask 3. If you've got stuff that you want to answer that nobody else is asking, by all means, get into it, right? Now, it's different if you're like Eric Name, right? And you're one of 2 people, you and Ozarski are the only ones talking to the players and coaches after the game because nobody else is going. Then yes, then you're going to have to bring questions. You're going to have to ask questions. Otherwise, none of us are going to get any answers to anything.
It'd be a little awkward if you're just standing there holding a microphone in front of this guy's face by yourself.
But if you're at a training camp practice and there's 20 people in the room asking questions, you don't have to ask a question, man. More than likely, you're going to get your answer with somebody else asking a question. The beat writers are going to take care of all that stuff. Now, if that guy's a beat writer, I pray for him because Vrabel is going to kill that guy by the end of the year if he does that one more time. If he's just like a radio dude that's just showing up for a couple of days and screwed that up, then whatever. It is what it is. Next time, don't ask a question if you're not paying attention to actually what's going on. Charlie Usen over there, Steve Sparky, Fifer here. Potawatomi Sportsbook is there for you, whether it's games, football games, baseball, basketball, soccer, racing, whatever it may be. 30 different sporting events at once you can watch on their 2,000 square foot center screen. This place is 6,500 square feet. It's got a second level. You can rent it out for business luncheons, parties, small parties, whatever the case may be. It's got its own private elevator with somebody standing there watching it to let you up and down. So not anybody can get upstairs to the second level. Great for rentals. Definitely should take advantage of that, especially you got a weekday lunch or something and you got a bunch of people that are sports fans or whatever. Man, they would love it. Be sitting in a sports book watching all the day baseball games going on or whatever. Perfect idea there. Potawatomi Sportsbook Kitchen is amazing. All kinds of great food, homemade pastries and desserts, all-day brunch, 48 beers on tap, a dozen different specialty cocktails, homemade desserts and pastries each and every day at the Potawatomi Hotel Casino. Got those gambling kiosks right there off of the 4th floor parking garage, the skywalk as you walk in across from Rock and Brews Restaurant. Great family restaurant, great personal pizzas. So just first class all the way across the board at the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Take advantage of it today. Reserve your seat ahead of time. That's what I always recommend. Potawatomi.com/sportsbook. Potawatomi.com/sportsbook. There's a nominal fee, but it goes towards your food and beverage for the night, so it makes all the sense in the world. Coming up next, Green and Gold Update. Jacob Westendorf, Packers on SI, joins us straight ahead here on Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from the 1250 AM at 105.7 FM The Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Sparky here.
Some shows talk about one team. Other shows barely talk sports. This show will talk Packers, Brewers, and Bucks every day. Every day. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily with Steve Sparky Fifer, served up by Wendy's on 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan. Download the Wendy's app today.
It is that time again. Welcome in hour number 3. Steve Sparky Fifer with you. Charlie Use it over there, other side of the glass. We broadcast live from the 1250 AM and 105.7 FM The Fan studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Coming up this hour, lots of stuff to get into. Lots and lots of stuff to get into. There's a great piece on ESPN about the top trade rentals at the MLB trade deadline in recent memory in Major League Baseball. And you can bet your bottom dollar CC Sabathia is on that list. So I want to get into that. There's another great piece talking about, the top 14 teams kind of in the NBA and where everybody is stacked up in that. So we may get to that. Lots to get to. As far as the Brewers go, Brewers are up 6-2. William Contreras finally got a hit. He struck out the last 2 times. And Terang had a hit before that. So first and second with 1 out. Brewers up 6-2 here in the 6th inning. Crew looking good. Cubs lost 8-4. So the Brewers to get back sole possession of first place. They can hold on and get a victory here. Joining us now on the Fan Guest Hotline, powered by Gruber Law, he is the one and only Jacob Westendorf, of course, Packer Central on SI, as well as Athlon Sports. What's going on, Mr. Westendorf?
It's good to be here, Sparky. It feels like just yesterday we were sitting outside of Buffalo Wild Wings at the draft talking Matthew Golden, and now Matthew Golden's here, camp's up and running, and I solemnly promise to never open a mock draft simulator until at least January. So I am more than happy to be able to say that.
I hadn't thought about doing one of those. I might do one of those when I get home tonight now. I didn't even cross my mind.
Can you name one draft prospect right now?
No, probably not. Not off the top of my head. No, probably not if you put me on the spot. But I'll tell you what, it's a good way to learn about some of the top draft prospects to when you're watching college football, you have an idea of what you're watching and who you're watching for. I think a lot of people could educate themselves a lot if they got into doing these mock drafts earlier on.
Yeah, they could. And the thing about doing them now, though, is it changes so much between.
Oh, yeah.
Will Johnson was the number 1 overall pick. This time a year ago, he went 47th to Arizona. Obviously, a lot changed between now and draft day.
For sure. Yeah, he is Jacob Westendorf. Again, follow him on Twitter at Jacob Westendorf. All right, let's talk about Matthew Golden. I saw Malik Willis and him had a couple nice connections today. What did you make from what you saw? Again, we're in shells, right? We're not tackling anybody or anything like that, but what did you take away from watching Matthew Golden today at training camp?
Looks the part. I think that's about all you can ask for with your first-round pick, and if you're playing in shells and shorts, is do they look the part? And he looks fast. He's getting his opportunities, mostly with the twos. Malik Willis, like you mentioned, throwing him touchdown passes, but he did have some spots. The first team rep, they're in 12 personnel. He's out there with Jaden Reed, with Romeo Dobbs, not with Jaden Reed. So that's something worth monitoring. When does he line up with the starting unit, and how and who is he with, and all these different pairings? The Packers, they have so many guys that have a bunch of different skill sets in that receiver room, and you just don't know how they're going to line up, how everything is going to shake out once it's go time. Wildy had a great question today talking about when the money's on the table, it's 3rd and 7, training camp, does that get you ready for who those guys are going to be? And I've always said in the past, I don't think you need the number 1 receiver, which is a great talking point for, guys like you and me during the offseason. But realistically on the football field, does it matter that much? I don't know. But I know on 3rd and 7, the money down goes to the money player, and that's where it doesn't always work out that way. But for so many years, the primary concept in Green Bay, 3rd and 7, they want to throw the ball to Devontae Adams. I don't know who that guy is last year. I know the game-winning drive against the Texans, it was Romeo Dobbs. There were other times it was Dontavion Wicks. Other times it was Christian Watson. Sometimes it was Tucker Kraft, and that's the guy who I think at least early on you're going to see the Packers try and target early and often. But Golden, I've said this all offseason, he is the most talented receiver on the team, as evidenced by him being picked in the first round. And there isn't a receiver on this team, in my opinion, that has surefire earned themselves an opportunity to say, I am a starter I am on the field. You cannot take me off of it for any reason. There isn't a guy like that on the team. So Golden's going to have his opportunities to make his plays.
I agree with you on that. You know, the other part about this is you're saying looking the part as a first-round pick. Well, Jordan Morgan was a first-round pick too. Didn't see a ton of action last year, especially once he got hurt. That took care of that. Then you have Brian Gutekunst talking earlier today with the media and pretty much saying, hey, man, like, this isn't, it didn't sound to me, I mean, I don't know how you took it. It sounded like to me like Rasheed Walker, he's his left tackle. And he's going to have to kind of take the job from him because he's the guy coming into this thing. We had Pete Doherty on yesterday from the Green Bay Press-Gazette. He thinks there's a good chance that Morgan is going to be the swing guy, and he's not even going to start for the Packers.
Yeah, I do think that's possible. It's kind of a champagne problem, to use a Joe Barryism, I suppose, is that you've got
We don't know if Jordan Morgan is champagne. He might be bar house vodka for all we know. We have no idea at this point.
Yeah, but having a first-round pick that's really talented waiting in the wings, that's a good problem. Most teams' 6 offensive linemen look like meat. Like, that's not – no, I'm exaggerating, obviously.
Then
but
why are you here talking to me for?
I don't
you should
know.
be calling that check.
Yeah. If somebody wants to, I did play a little bit of offensive line. I'm about 15 pounds lighter than when I did that, so I don't know if that's good or not. But
we can get you fat if we need to get you on the field for $1 million a year, right?
Yeah, I can eat some cheese curds.
Right, we can go. Yeah.
Give me a Culver strip here. There.
Wendy's, man. Wendy's. You're having a Wendy's. Wendy's double sec. That's what you're having.
I'm more than happy to have a Baconator then. If that's
yes,
what I need
exactly
to do.
right. Yes, and a Frosty Fusion and some fries. Yeah, don't say that other thing on the air. No, go ahead.
Give me a little bit of everything. I'm more than happy to do that. But with Morgan, I don't know what their plan is. When they took him, I think that their thought was kind of the Jordan Love of it all, where he's waiting in the wings. Last year, they kept insisting he was a tackle. Nothing we ever saw him line up at tackle. He played guard pretty much exclusively, and then he was dinged for most of the year at a shoulder injury. He did line up today with the ones at guard, but that's kind of a byproduct of Elton Jenkins not practicing. Make your conclusions as to why Elton Jenkins isn't practicing.
But Sean Ryan was at center then, which meant the guard position was open, and that's how Morgan got in there.
Yeah, and the reality of it, too, is that even if Morgan is the 6th guy, he's going to play. The offensive line is a notoriously not healthy position, and the Packers are in a better spot this year than they were. You know, their season ended a year ago in large part because Travis Glover and Kadeem Telford were absolute disasters.
It's true.
In their cameo, and I don't even necessarily blame those players for that. You're on the bench most of the year. You're primarily a tackle. And all of a sudden, bang, Jenkins gets hurt in the first couple snaps of the game. And they say, hey, by the way, you got to go in the game. And now you have to block Jalen Carter, who's on the other side of the line of scrimmage. And this just absolutely ferocious front that the Philadelphia Eagles had last year that they rode in large part on the way to a Super Bowl title. So Jordan Morgan is a guy who would have come in really handy in a situation like that a year ago. I don't know what their plan was when they drafted him. I would be surprised if he's not at least in the plans to be one of their starters in 2026 for sure. But, you know, that's another year from now. What's going to happen in that time frame?
Yeah, but the thing is, Jacob Westendorf, is that if they wanted Rasheed Walker, then why didn't they pay Rasheed Walker an extension and call it a day? They didn't pay Rasheed Walker because they don't want Rasheed Walker. They want Jordan Morgan to be the guy.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Walker, his career as a whole has just been so interesting. So he comes in the league, he's a 7th-round pick. He's not guaranteed a job at all.
Right.
When you're a 7th-round pick. Like, you're just as likely to get cut as you are to make the team. He makes the team, and his first season did not go well, just to say the very least. There were some whispers that, like, we all thought, like, Luke Butkus hated him. And to his credit, he got better from his first year to his second year, became the team's swing tackle, beat out Yosh Nijman, who – you know, that was a job that was probably tilted in Nyman's favor. They've seen him play a lot of starting left tackle behind David Bakhtiari, and Walker beat him out. You know, last year they drafted Jordan Morgan. Walker's job, they say he's a left tackle, Morgan that is. Walker's job probably not safe, and this year they say Jordan Morgan can compete to be the left tackle again. It makes you feel like, yes, he is somebody that they maybe like but don't love. Do they want to replace him? Did they shop him this offseason? Could never fully get that completely nailed down if they did that or not. But it sounded like something that for the right, you know, price, draft choice, other player, whatever, they would have considered it. And that's just not something, you know, David Bakhtiari's name was never whispered as something of, oh, Green Bay's trying to, move on from him or deal.
Correct. And they weren't drafting a first-round tackle to go up against them in practice.
Right. And when you're a first-round pick, the deck is stacked against you. I do believe that had Aaron Rodgers played really, really well in 2022 and the Packers won a bunch of games and whatever, that the Packers would have just moved on from Jordan Love without ever having seen him play. However, that's a quarterback situation, and that's drastically different. So when you are a first-round pick, the scale, if you will, gets tilted in your favor. And I just wonder, where does Jordan Morgan fall? Does he have to do anything spectacular? Does he have to rip the job away from Rasheed Walker? Or is it like, hey, close enough, we're going to go with the kid? Or, do the Packers also go, hey, close enough, but Rasheed Walker is going to get a big contract in free agency if he just plays the same level of football he did. So we want that third-round compensatory pick because he's going to get a lot of cash.
Great
Not from us,
point.
but from somebody else. Bill Huber made that point in the offseason. Could Green Bay decide to do that? I don't know. I don't know what that's going to look like. We haven't seen one practice in pads. And also, to be just very frank, we haven't seen Jordan Morgan play one snap of offensive tackle because he was injured throughout all of training camp last year.
Right.
Never saw him practice there once the season started because we don't see stuff when the season starts.
That is a great point on the whole compensatory pick thing for sure. Jacob Westendorf, Packers on SI. Packers Central over there with him and Bill Huber, does a great job with Athlon Sports as well. Follow him on Twitter at Jacob Westendorf. He was there at Packers training camp earlier today, the first practice of the day. And obviously, some guys missing because of injuries and so forth. I was telling Charlie, I think Quay Walker is the guy that really needs to be on the field the most. If everybody that wasn't necessarily out there.
Sparky, Tom Pelissero, right before I jumped on here, said Walker passed his physical, so he should come off that list and be ready to practice tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you, Jacob Westendorf. But the reason I said that Walker is probably the most important player on that list is because if they really think they can make something out of Isaiah Simmons and Hafley's defense to where he can really be a game changer and utilize that athleticism that everybody else has been trying to get something out of. Plus, you have Cooper. It looked like Hafley had unlocked Quay Walker prior to him getting hurt last year in those 2 or 3 games prior to that. This linebacking core could very well be the most athletic linebacking core in the league if those 3 guys are on the field, but you want them to build that chemistry and let Hafley see what he has a little bit more.
Yeah, color me skeptical on Isaiah Simmons as a linebacker first and foremost.
Sure.
But as far as the rest of the stuff you're talking about, athletic linebackers and everything like that, Quay Walker was playing, like you mentioned, his best football just before the injury that knocked him out for the last couple games. And this was like against Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel, offenses that are designed for linebackers to just kind of be put into a blender. Walker looked like he was becoming a bona fide player that I think he would. In the Packers, that organization to a man, anybody who matters. My opinion doesn't matter. What I think of Quay Walker does not matter, right? What you think of Quay Walker does not matter. Brian Gutekunst, Matt LaFleur, Jeff Hafley, his linebacker coach from last year, his linebacker coach from this year, Xavier McKinney, Josh Jacobs, they've all said something to the lines of really good player, want him around for a long time. McKinney said he could be the best linebacker in all of football.
I heard
and he said that unprompted. They didn't say, hey, what do you think of Quay Walker? They ended up talking about Walker organically through all that thing. So I don't know. They see something that maybe isn't showing up on your grading websites or to the naked eye and all that stuff. They love Quay Walker.
Yeah, but Jacob, well, hold on. Naked eye, right? Watching a game, not having to go to scout school, not having to be a coach in the NFL. Man, again, I watch Edgerrin Cooper. I'm like, damn, that cat's going to be amazing. I watch Quay Walker. You get maybe a couple of moments throughout the last 2 years where you can say that. Cooper, I felt like you got one a game through his rookie year.
Yeah, Cooper, if he plays all 16, he's the defensive rookie of the year last year. That is bona fide true. Quay's never been close to that. No question about that. But is he getting better? Did they know that he was going to be, take some time and everything like that? Yeah, they did know that. I just don't know if it's ever going to be enough. You know what I mean? He's already been kind of in the minds of fans and pundits alike that he's not able to play anymore, or he's never going to be the first round pick that they took. Is he ever going to be Fred Warner? No. How many linebackers in the league are like Fred Warner, though? He's one, right? So I'm curious to see what it looks like. I'm curious to see what it looks like with him and Cooper on the field for a full season together, because him and Edgerrin really didn't play together all that much a season ago. You mentioned kind of the ability to mix and match with guys like Isaiah McDuffie, who will have a role with the defense this year, and then Isaiah Simmons if he's able to figure out some sort of niche role or what their plan with him is going to be. I'm curious what that's going to look like when it's go time as well.
I got one last one for you. Bo Melton officially now at corner wearing number 16. When they did this little experimentation at the mandatory minicamp or whatever, it opened my eyes. I'm like, I think they're telling this dude, figure this out or you're not going to be on the team. And I was told I was crazy by everybody, of course. Oh, they're just screwing around, Sparky. Okay, so now here we are. They're clearly not screwing around. This is for real. LaFleur going, I know what he is at wide receiver. And I'm like, of course you do. That's why he's at cornerback right now. So he is playing for his job. And the only reason they're even letting him play corner to see if he can prove this is twofold. One, he's good on special teams and they'd like to keep him. And two, his brother plays corner. He's athletic enough to play corner. It's just a matter of whether or not they can get him, coached up enough to be there in week 1 at that position. Not as a starter, but, 4th, 5th on the depth chart maybe.
Yeah, so just to say that you were right once upon a time, NFL teams don't screw around. Like, they didn't just throw him out there and say, what would be fun? Like,
but LaFleur does that all the time. Andy Herman who was the offensive lineman he brought up at one of the OTAs and said, hey, man, like he was out there starting at guard today. Like, what is that all about? And Matt LaFleur was like, oh, was he? I didn't know that he was even out there. I had no idea. We were whatever. It was just doing something.
It was Donovan Jennings.
Donovan Jennings, that's who it was. Right, and LaFleur just completely brushed Andy off like he was nuts, like, nothing to make of it. I agree with you. Everything they do is for a reason, whether they want to cop to it or not.
Yep, and Melton playing corner is that. Like, there's 13 receivers on this roster, 12 if you take away Christian Watson. But Christian Watson, whenever he's ready, which whispers here or there sound like that could be sooner rather than later.
Correct.
Who knows? We'll see what that looks like when that time comes. But there's 13 guys on the roster. Watson's going to make it, okay? So that's one less spot that you have. Melton, I don't know. I don't know. Where does he fall in that hierarchy? You figure as far as roster locks, Watson's going to be on the pup. But the other 3 guys from last year, so Wicks, Reed, and Dobbs, those 3 guys are probably going to make the team, barring some unforeseen trade or something like that. That's 3. Golden and Savion Williams are going to make the team. That's 5. Now you've got the rest of this crew. Cornelius Johnson had a really good spring. You've got Malik Heath, who could the Packers look to have a role player type of that? Do they want his blocking ability on the roster for something like that? And on the other side of the ball, cornerback, maybe the least deep position on the team. So finding a way to do something like that and wanting to keep him on special teams, I don't hate the idea. It's kind of one of those things that if he ever has to play cornerback in a game, you're probably in a lot of trouble. But if that was probably true, whether Melton was playing receiver or cornerback anyway. So I think what it really signifies is they want him on this team for special teams, but you can't keep 8 receivers in the process to do that. You can keep 5 or 6 corners, but you can't keep 8 receivers, and he's not a guy who's either going to be able to stick on the practice squad. I'll have to check and see. I don't think he has practice squad eligibility anymore, but I would have to look to be sure on that. But it's not somebody you're just going to be able to keep around and not have him on the full-time roster. So I think they really like him. I think they want him around. Like you said, they know what he is as a receiver. That is how do I say this nicely? A role player at the very best, which no disrespect to Bo Melton by saying that. He had some nice moments for Green Bay, especially in 2023. Love's first season as a starter. But he's not going to be a star. And Green Bay has at least, like I said, at least 6 guys in front of him if you include Watson. So putting him on the defensive side of the ball, they're going to give it a shot. And, if there were ever a year for something like that to happen, it would be this year just because of the depth or lack thereof on that side of the room.
Really good at what he does. Jacob Westendorf, Packers on SI, Packers Central, and of course with Athlon Sports. Follow him on Twitter at Jacob Westendorf. And if you've never really seen Westendorf up close and in person and what his style is and all that, go back. You can watch the interview right now on YouTube, live streaming it at The Fan Milwaukee. Use that hashtag at The Fan Milwaukee. Like, subscribe, tell your friends. The Fan is on YouTube now. Got shorts, videos, the whole thing. Mr. Westendorf, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Sparky. Appreciate you.
Take care. There he is, Jacob Westendorf on the Fan Guest Hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call. That is all. All right, coming up next on the other side, we're going to talk a little bit more about what's going on in this Brewers game right now. I'm telling you, Joey Ortiz, man, what in the world? I mean, there are some things here, as we get closer to the deadline, the more convinced I am they're going to do not a damn thing. The more convinced I am they're not going to do anything. I'll explain coming up next. It's Wisconsin Sports Daily, served up by Wendy's, live from 1250 AM 105.7 FM, the Fan Studios, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook. Time for your fan weather forecast, brought to you by Utke Heating and Cooling. 91 degrees outside right now. Mostly cloudy skies with a real feel of 104. Ooh. 104, Charlie.
Yeah, that's warm. That's pretty warm.
That's not warm. That's damn hot. That is, if your AC ain't working, heating and cooling, you better call them now. You better hurry up because nobody is sleeping in 104, I don't think, at this point. So, again, 91 degrees, real feel of 104. Low tonight of 76.